everyone. This is the first chapter of the book Youth in the Third Millennium, written by Father Carlos Buela. And the title of this first chapter is The Meaning of Life. So he says at the very beginning here, I could not begin these pages without first trying to answer a fundamental question. What is it that distinguishes a human being from the rest of creation? In other words, he says, what is man? What is man? I find this question very important because many times in our daily language, as is said by the great author Gilbert Chesterton, it seems that man is no more than a strange animal. Man has similar characteristics to animals in that he has a body with ears, legs, eyes, etc., like other animals. Though we may place man next to animals, we also know that man is superior to them. Man thinks, and man is able to sustain love forever, able to create works of art, and able to become a hero. This, my young friends, does not occur because he has a body like the animals. Man can do these things because he has a soul, a spiritual and immortal soul that is the image of God. The reality of the soul is something we count on every single day. The soul is always present, and because of that, we sometimes fail to recognize it. Every time we see an elderly person with energy and inner youthfulness, we reflect upon ourselves, on the I, which, like the air, we do not see, but is there. Every time we recall our past, which by being past no longer exists, and every time we consider our future, which by being future is not yet in existence, and every time we do something like this, we come into contact with the reality of the soul. That the soul is spiritual, not bound to the corporal, and does not depend on time and space. The soul in Latin, anima, is what animates the body, gives it life and movement, and what makes it know and love. So man is capable of knowing and loving because his soul has two capacities called intelligence and will. He knows with the intelligence and loves with the will. With the intelligence, he looks, he sees what he can do, and with the will, he decides. No, he chooses to do it. This is why man, unlike animals, is free. Animals will always act in the same way, each one according to the impulse of its instinct, now exactly as dictated by nature. Man who possesses freedom, on the other hand, can progress or regress by personal decision. This means that man is a being who is capable of setting for himself objectives and goals to reach. Man is a being who is intentional. Man is a being who will be either good or bad, according to the ends he proposes for himself and the means he chooses to reach them. There are different types of ends. Now, some are good, others are bad. If I intend to be a great scientist in order to create a bomb capable of destroying a large part of humanity, I will be proposing a goal that does not dignify me. If I intend to have a lot of money to give myself pleasures without worrying about others, I will be taking the wrong path. However, if I want to form a good family, marked by fecundity, so as to be able to be an example for my future children, I am choosing an objective that will truly fulfill me as a person. Certainly, our actions have an end, all of our actions. But the most important end is the one that gives meaning to all of life. We call it the end of ends, the ultimate end. In other words, happiness. For this reason, it is not enough to know what man is. It is also necessary to know what man is for, to know the meaning of his journey through this world. If we were to conduct a survey on the street asking people, why they do what they do, you may receive thousands of answers. But behind all of them will only be one desire: to be happy. What is happiness? This is the fundamental question of our existence, and the personal answer each person will find with the unfolding of his own life. The answer is difficult, but valuable, Father Carlos Buela says. Very valuable. So he says, dear young people, throughout these pages, we will try to offer a wide view so as to respond with full maturity and freedom. Nothing makes us as free as knowing. Nothing makes us as free as knowing. Wow, powerful words right there. May the words of Eva Lavarari, the applauded actress from Paris, never be said by us. I have gold and silver and all that one can have in this life, and I am the most unfortunate of all women. Nevertheless, she was able later to reorient her life. So, Father Buela says, fundamentally, there are two roads in the existence of man, one that is difficult and one that is easy, one that makes us happy and the other that makes us unhappy. In order to reach true happiness, it is crucial that we choose, of course, the appropriate path. Unfortunately, many people choose the easy road. This road is chosen by those who live this life because the air is simply free, or govern their lives solely by what the majority says and does, without caring whether it is good or bad. They live their lives without discernment or critical thinking, blown by any wind and influenced by any fashion because they don't know why they live, where they come from, or where they are going. These are the men of the masses who lack high ideals or desires for virtue, and consequently find only emptiness in their lives. Those who choose this road end up being resentful and mistreated by society. They're easily disgusted, and their days are full of tedium and insipidness. They get simply tired of life, of living life. Life becomes meaningless. They seem to be poisoned and to seek to poison others with their depressions and their pessimisms. And maybe they don't possess the physical beauty they desire or the sufficient money. Perhaps they have to study harder than others do, or are unable to obtain a girlfriend or a boyfriend, a job, etc. Whatever the case may be, everyone else is blamed. So they never blame themselves for these misfortunes in their lives, but they blame others, their parents, friends, siblings, society, and most seriously of all, they usually blame God. So this path has a key characteristic, that is the easy path, the wide path that leads to perdition, as our Lord would say. Has a key characteristic that we need to always keep in mind. It is a path marked by deceit and lies. This is a path that makes promises but never keeps them, that presents imaginary and fictitious things as being real. What is actually ordinary is presented as exceptional and serves to distract us from the more important things in life. Examples of this abound in TV soap operas. And we could also just he says soap operas here, but we just Hollywood productions in general, we could substitute there for soap operas, that toy with the sentiments of those who follow them by creating fictional anxieties, happiness, sadness, other emotions that unbalance people's affectivity. In other words, soap operas or Hollywood productions and movies, TV, present imaginary things as real and ridicule reality, or present it as simply utopian, as simply a dream that no one could ever be able to obtain. Some examples of this include the idea that purity is impossible, virginity before marriage, and the mutual respect in a courtship are unattainable ideals. That there is no life after this one, nor is there a final judgment. We'll have to give an account for all of our actions to God. In fact, what this easy path offers us is a life of total disregard for God, forgetting Him, covering our ears so that we do not even hear His name and His call to us. This is a path that denies God in order to justify the errors and defects no one wants to correct. St. Paul the Apostle says, "It is full time now for you to wake from sleep." We should not allow ourselves to be deceived or to allow the lies that circulate in our society to make us feel fed up with life. Life is beautiful and deserves to be lived. What is real is possible. It is possible to live a life in its plenitude. It is possible to live life in its plenitude. For instance, we know that thousands of young people live purity in its fullness as true Christians. And they're not abnormal. They're not physically or psychologically impaired. These young people are as happy and full of life as it is possible. These young people are as happy and full of life as it is possible to be. They are willing to deny themselves for the good of others, to live the great ideals, and refuse to be carried away by what the majority does. There are more of them than you might think. The path laid down for us by God is not publicized or advertised in our society, and is not very popular at the present time. However, it has something that the other standard paths present to us do not have. This path will never deceive us, and it will never leave us empty. That is the path of Christ, which is the narrow path. Following Christ is a road that demands sacrifice and renunciation. It demands the soul of a hero and the strength of the youth. It is the path of those who, in the middle of everyday occupations, know how to raise their eyes and see the bigger and nobler things worthy enough that we should give our lives for them. Those who choose this difficult path can say no when the majority says yes. Those who are on the right path do not try to escape reality or deceive themselves, but overcome obstacles like athletes full of energy. This path is for those who have the soul of a prince, those who live with firm principles and carry out the demands of these principles to their ultimate consequences. It is to these youths of noble souls, pure eyes and hearts enamored with goodness and truth that the beautiful is made visible. If I told you that obtaining happiness comes from being a good professional, I would be lying to you. There are many famous professionals who are unhappy and miserable. If I told you that happiness can be obtained by not injuring anybody, I would be incorrect. There are many who do not injure anyone and are still unhappy. That is, by words or by deeds. If I told you that you will find happiness in alcohol, drugs, and unbridled living, I would be gravely lying to you. Youth are made for greater and nobler things. Youth are not made for pleasure, but to fight, to obtain arduous and difficult things. The youth are made for heroism. Okay, that is it. That is the end of chapter 1. I will see you next week with chapter 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.